Welcome to Playwright, an online interview series presented by Queen's Theatre at Home. You are listening to the audio description pre-show notes for the interview. Because the format is fairly simple and the talking is continuous, there will be no audio description during the interview itself. The video begins with a title screen. The Queen's Theatre logo fills the left side of the screen. The logo resembles the letter Q. The circle of the Q is orange and the rectangular tail is black. The text of the title screen reads Playwright to Playwright with Rob Urbanati and special guest Douglas Lyons. Originally recorded January 26, 2021. Technical production, Jay Rogers. The Queen's Theatre at Home text logo is in the lower right-hand corner of the frame throughout the interview. The word Queens is in orange and the word theater is in black. The interview consists of close-ups of Douglas and Rob in large squares filling a split screen, with Douglas on the left and Rob on the right. At times, when Douglas is speaking, a close-up of him fills the screen. Rob is in his 60s with close-cut dark hair and a round face. Rob is in his living room and wears a black t-shirt with the Queen's Theatre logo on it. Douglas is in front of a window. He's wearing a black iridescent shirt and a tan pork pie hat, which has a round crown, and a darker brown band and a narrow brim. He has light brown skin and a full, close-cropped beard and mustache.
Hello, and welcome to Episode 9 of Playwright to Playwright. My name is Rob Urbanati, and I'm Director of New Play Development at Queen's Theatre. Today I'll be speaking with Douglas Lyons, whose play Chicken and Biscuits was setting house records in Queen's Theatre's studio theater when COVID canceled performances mid-run. Douglas is a very successful actor with multiple Broadway and off-Broadway credits. He recently began to write plays and musicals, and I'm eager to hear about all his upcoming projects. So let's begin. Hey, Douglas.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. Things are good today.
Thank you so much for doing this today. I really appreciate it. Where does this find you? What's that in the background?
I'm in Queens. I'm in my apartment where I've been quarantined for about 10 months now. But yeah, via train, probably like 30 minutes from Queen's Theatre.
Chicken and Biscuits was running at Queen's Theatre, at this very Queen's Theatre, when the pandemic struck. Yeah. I'd love to hear you talk about that play and about the Queen's Theatre production and your experience.
I have a love affair with Chance Ackerman. Let's just make that very public. And we were at the New Voices series with Chicken and Biscuits. Was that, spring of 2019, I believe. I believe it was like May or June or something like that. And the response from the audience was so overwhelmingly beautiful. The audience was so diverse and people really connected with the story, which got us greenlit for that launch production. So we had just started, opening night was March 6th and the shutdown hit like March 12th, which I think was that Thursday maybe. And the little amount of performances we did get were received so well. I keep remembering from opening night, there were these reaction videos, and one was from this like middle-aged white guy who was like, I've never been to a Black church, but I felt like I knew Bernard and I cried and I laughed. And of course, in the lobby, there's all the reactions with, sticky notes up and just the response was so beautiful. I've learned community engagement from the Queen's Theatre and how important that is. And I felt like we were really onto something very important. We were going to add a show closing night because closing night had already sold out. So Chicken and Biscuits was whipping up something serious. And I think it was very special. And I hadn't made maybe like 3 or 4 performances because I was doing another show as an actor that had just ended right before we opened. And I'm really proud of what we accomplished in the little time we had, and hoping that we can bring it back when things roll out.
It is coming back. Rest assured, Douglas.
We got to make it happen.
Is not over at Queen's Theatre. Honestly, I can tell you that the experience of that was completely distinct in terms of the audience reactions. We've had great audience reactions at various productions before, but they were going hysterical. There were times where the poor actors just had to wait for about 3 minutes while people were literally rolling over with laughter. It really was a beautiful thing, and it felt immersive, not in the way that's often used nowadays for that. The actors didn't wander in the aisles of the theater, but the audience was such, well, I think having the pews as part of the set helped, but the audience was such a part of that production that I'll never forget it. And I don't have to forget it yet because we've made a vow that that will be happening. So thank you for bringing that to Queen's Theater.
No, thank you for having me. I think, it's my playwriting debut for production, and I couldn't have imagined a better way to introduce that story to an audience. You're right, it felt immersive. It felt like community. It felt like church. And we really set that vibe on purpose because I think theater can be anywhere. Theater can be in a Black church. Theater can be in a funeral home. Theater can be, in flight. We just have to believe the story. So I think people were on board, and I'm really proud of it.
Yeah, to put it mildly, you are a gifted comic writer.
Oh,
And I don't want to limit you to that. The play was also touching and sincere and sort of casually funny, but very often uproariously funny. And I'm grateful for it. Let's talk about how you began to write, because you're a celebrated actor, a well-known actor with major credits. Were you always harboring a desire to write, or did it just kind of hit you one day?
The writing came from heartbreak, actually. I went through a breakup in 2012 that really rocked me to my core. And I started writing music first when I went on tour with the Book of Mormon after leaving the Broadway company. I met my main writing partner, Ethan Pakchar, and he was the guitarist on the tour. I was an actor on stage, and we sort of hit it off. And I started singing melodies over his, finger picking and stuff. And we would write between shows and hotel rooms on day offs and just like jamming out. And then that became something a little bit more serious. And then when it came to like book and plays, I didn't really start that until the musical Beau in 2017 when I was in residence at the Directors Company, and Chicken and Biscuits came after that. So writing began as a form of healing and then turned into sort of a branching out in my artistic career, because I never imagined that I would be a writer. Like, that is just not something I thought possible, but it's testament to, taking in what is around you, absorbing the brilliance around you, the people you're working with, the directors and the writers that you're working with, and paying attention to what is landing, and then finding your own voice and, creating it and seeing what happens. And I always say now that my plays are an experiment, because I never am too sure. It's all about what the audience receives. You're writing your truth, but ultimately in the American theater, you want audiences to relate. So you have to keep them in mind. And that's my new thing. It's like, I'm going to experiment and see how far we can go with these stories before someone's like, he's crazy, we got to pull the plug. I don't think we got there, but we're on our way for sure.
I don't see any pulling of the plug happening anytime soon. I'd like to follow up on a couple of things you mentioned. First, your collaboration with Ethan. It's distinct in that you both write the music and then you write the lyrics. How does that work?
Yeah, so it's a mixture of, like, we'll do like a jam session where I will hum, a melody over something he's noodling with, and we'll get a vibe. Like, if we're writing assignment, we specifically want to know what the moment in the show is or the project, because we're also like dabbling in TV stuff right now too, musically. So if you're writing a moment, you really want to identify what needs to occur. But if we're writing just like music, freelance music or just for us, it really starts with a melody and a vibe. And then I'll go away and work on the lyric. But we always want to make sure sonically the groove of our sound falls in the hearts and the ears of people kind of before the message, if that makes sense, which is weird to say, because usually in musical theater, it's sometimes lyric first, but we usually write music first to make sure there's a bopability to it. And then I'll add on the lyric on top.
It's really great that you found somebody that you have that kind of collaboration and work relationship with. Most of the best songwriting teams in Broadway history are composers that collaborated with lyricists for a long period of time. Having that kind of relationship, I think, is really valuable to creating good work. So congratulations, you found one so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I call it destiny, because he had just graduated college. I had just decided to leave the Broadway company if I had not taken that tour. And even the way I got the tour was kind of magical because I didn't audition. Just got a call one because I had mentioned to the dance captain at the time, like, hey, I would love to go on tour. Like, and then I just got a call that was like, hey, we heard you want to go on tour. Do you? And I was like, yes. And I didn't know Ethan at that point. So I call it destiny that we met, and I'm better for it. And we've written a lot of music, that I'm really proud of. So yeah, that sort of changed my life. And then I got a little bit more serious about the writing, and we started working on some musicals, 5 Points being one of them, which came through the Queen's Theater for a workshop in 2015, maybe. 3 shows I've worked on, 5 Points, Chicken and Biscuits, Polka Dots, have all been in that black box at the Queen's Theater.
Let's talk about both of those shows. I really love 5 Points, and I saw it downtown as well as at Queen's Theater.
Mm-hmm.
There was a reading that was done, if I remember, way downtown.
Yeah, the Sheen Center.
Great. The Sheen Center. Can you talk about what inspired you, what historical events interested you?
5 Points explores the period of like 1840 to 1863, Lower Manhattan, and the tension between Irish immigrants and emancipated African Americans. And it's said that the Irish jig, in conjunction with the African step dance, were the beginnings of American tap dance. So there have been many 5 musical projects, over the years since that time period, because it's such a juicy melting pot of American history. And what's been the exercise since we began this journey, which was 2014 officially, is really honing in on what we want to say, how we want to say it, how to make sure that the story is equally told between both Irish and Black ensemble, and that there's some sort of healing by the end of it. So we had a world premiere at Theater Latte Da in 2018 that was well received, sold out and extended. And now we are in development with Andy Blankenbuehler of Hamilton for the foreseeable future of possibilities, and who knows what's going to happen. But we had a reading in January last year, and then COVID hit. But what's been kind of great is we've been able to rewrite the show. We've rewritten at least 4 new songs and 2 new sequences in COVID. So we'll see, experiment.
I was so excited when I heard that Andy was involved. He, if anything, he's the underrated artist in Hamilton. His work is phenomenal. I loved Bandstand. I was thrilled for you to hear that. So may that collaboration prove fruitful. I can't wait to see what happens with 5 Points. Another question about it, how much of it is historical versus fictional?
I think it's a mixture of both. There are some historical characters, but when it comes to the African-American side of the story, there's more limited history that's documented. So we've used a bit of our imagination. But we pulled from 2 dancers of that time and sort of elaborated on stories. So it's definitely fiction, but it's a mixture of history, I'd say.
You also mentioned polka dots. Can you talk about polka dots? What inspired you?
I was watching on YouTube an interview with Phylicia Rashad, and she was talking about growing up in the Jim Crow South and being a little Black girl with this curiosity for a white-only water fountain. And one day in a grocery mart, she went and tasted that white-only water fountain. Now, she could have been punished and hurt, potentially killed. Like, the stakes were really high during American racial segregation. So, but I thought in that moment, and she also said in the interview, she said, humanity had tried to trick itself into dividing the races. And I was like, wow, that's powerful that, a child would have a curiosity and innocence to understand that, like, wait a minute, this seems stupid. I'm going to go try to figure out what that is. And so that story alone, that YouTube interview inspired Polka Dots, where this little girl, Lily Polka Dot, who has all polka dot skin, is the first of her kind, being integrated into the school of all squares. So the other 3 characters on stage are squares. The town of Rockaway is a square town. So there's a square sprinkler and a polka dot pump. And she's not allowed to drink from the square sprinkler. But as theater goes, of course she does, with her new friend Sky Square. And they learn that the water tastes the same, and they create this thing called the Squadot for their big share day, which is a mixture of being a square and a polka dot. and they basically present to the school that, you know, what makes us different actually is to be celebrated, and that trying to divide squares and polka dots is, you know, silly. So it's an analogy piece on racial segregation for a new audience of children that obviously we still need, unfortunately. So that's Polka Dots, and it won the Off-Broadway Alliance in 2018 and has had over 50 licensed productions around the world. We're very, very proud of that one. Even talking about it gets me a little emotional.
It's a terrific idea for a children's show. Did you have an association with children's theaters before you wrote Polka Dots?
I didn't. I have what I call these mosquito bites, where ideas come to me and they bite me, and if they stick, I'm like, oh gosh, because it actually came to me in 2014, and I put it on a shelf for like 5 months because I was afraid of it, and then I brought it to Greg Borofsky and Melvin Tunsil III, and I was like, look, y'all, I got this idea. You write really great book. You're an awesome, you know, musician. Maybe we can put something, you know, together. 6 months in, we had our first reading, and we never looked back. And we were in production 6 months later. So it was lightning in a bottle. But again, I believe in destiny, and I believe that things sort of come together for a reason. And that project and what it stands for is something to be proud of.
Yeah, it's important, but wildly entertaining and really a lot of fun. So congrats on that one too. By the way, did Alicia Richard know that she inspired it?
I met her.
What happened?
So my agent, I annoyed him so much. And I was like, I gotta meet her. I gotta meet her and tell her. I gotta meet her and tell her. He's like, okay, we'll figure this out. And so I flew to Los Angeles because my good friend Lily is White was starring in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom at the Ahmanson, and Felicia was directing it. And so my agent worked really hard to arrange a meeting. And yeah, like between shows, they were expecting me. She was expecting me. So I like waited for 5 minutes backstage, and then her assistant went and was like, she's ready for you. And I came around the corner and she was like, Douglas, and like a shawl. I'll never forget it.
So great.
And I sat across from her for 40 minutes or so and talked about the inspiration of the show and the power of being a Black artist and how to move through the world and not to look back. And that's a day I'll never forget. And I got a sweet picture too. I was so giddy to meet her, but also to meet the person that inspired the show was important.
I'm not surprised at all, given the quality of your work and the success of it, that you've been getting some commissions. Can you talk about some of your upcoming work that's been commissioned by different companies?
Well, the only one that's in talks is the Queen's Theater right now. Can I talk about it?
Yes.
Okay. There is a new play, Invisible. That's an experiment, literally an experiment, where I wanted to see, with the smallest cast possible, how could I explore the conversation around race and slavery and history through comedy? As you know, we discussed with Chicken and Biscuits, that's sort of my lens in. So without giving away too much about the play, it is a comedy where two close Black female roommates get a little high and are transported back in time, where they are able to meet their ancestors head on. That's all I'm gonna say about that one.
Can I tell you how excited I am about this project?
Have you read any of it thus far?
No.
Okay.
Taryn talked to me about it, and it just sounds like, this mosquito bite of yours was another, perfect idea. It just sounds great, and I can't wait to see it. There's going to be something distinct, I think, in terms of the development of it, meaning that it's going to be a kind of open developmental process. Can you talk about that a bit?
So yeah, we're going to be doing this thing called the Fly on the Wall series, which will allow from page 0 to the final page a virtual development with the Queen's Theater and some other partners that are also interested and behind the play. We will do sort of like a book club style assignment where I'll write a couple pages. All the patrons will be able to read those pages when we reconvene. Actors from these separate communities will read those pages. We'll have community discussion about it. I'll go away, I'll rewrite, I'll write more, and we'll do that in process over the next year. And hopefully by the time we get out of COVID, we will have a first full draft that we can hear aloud in person. And from there, we will see where we go. But this is probably the most adventurous play I've ever written. And I think writing Beau and Chicken and Biscuits taught me to like dream big and just go for it. Because if you fall on your face, sometimes like the splatter, like there's the like drool that might fall out of your mouth. There might be something real smart and funny in there that you want to use. So I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna fall on my face. And but thus far, with the small development I've done on my own, it's proving to be something pretty wild and crazy. And it'll either be so brilliant or so stupid, one or the other. One or the other. I don't know.
I love that you're going to involve audiences in the development process. There's something about your work that to me is distinct in that it doesn't just engage the audience, it seems to be served to them on a silver platter. Can you talk about audiences? And I guess this ties into a question of who you write your plays for.
Yeah, what I have learned from the Queen's Theater and from Taryn is community engagement, how important that is. That theater is not only to entertain and to make money, but it is also an opportunity to pull in people from your community into a place they maybe have never been, to hear stories they've never heard, and to change their hearts and minds. And that is so powerful. And I think Chicken and Biscuits taught me that, like walking out in the lobby and seeing sticky notes where people have written, "This reminded me of my aunt," or "I wish I have a Beverly in my family." As a playwright, I've learned that I want to write stories that bring people who look like me into the American theater. And it doesn't have to be on Broadway. It doesn't have to be a Broadway show to matter. I can send a play to Long Wharf and New Haven. We can do a show at Queen's Theater and bring in folks that maybe have never been, but are intrigued. And when you start getting those audiences in, you change what theater means to the world. And I think in this pandemic right now, we are challenged to understand really what theater's value is to the world. And I think we have to reevaluate how we are reaching out to people so that they feel like this is an art form they actually care for. So my writing is about, the people that I know. I try to write on the plane I know. It's very, humanistic. It's very person to person. I like writing personality before I like writing a story. Like, oh, this really cool thing happens. I'm like, that's less interesting to me than this really cool person is this way because this thing happened to them. And so I always am more interested in relationship. And so I think that is becoming my stamp as a writer too, is relationship, mixing this Hollywood TV film device with stage, which we do in Invisible a little bit. And so you're not going to see the traditional piece of theater that you've seen before. You really got to pay attention or you might miss something, like in a TV show. So yeah, I think my writing is for contemporary audiences who want something new and fresh. And they will see characters in my plays that they might see on television right now.
I think what you reference about your plays being character-driven, personality-driven, is something that I associate with your work. It's something that I always find in your work. It's really distinct. Do you think any of that, Douglas, comes from you being an actor for many years before you started to write?
Yeah. It completely does. Well, on the page when something is juicy and good. And so everything that, if you could see me, as I write things, I act them out as well. Like my roommate's like, it's really funny to hear you read aloud, but it has to feel very good in the mouth. And if it doesn't feel good in my mouth, it's probably not going to feel good in an actor's mouth. And part of what I like to listen to is how an actor feels when the words come out. Like if something's off, I'm like, talk to me. Like what is stopping you? What's clipping you, holding you up? And also being inspired by the work of actors in the room. There's a distinct moment in Chicken and Biscuits as like what would be the act break when, the sister shows up to the funeral and things unfold. One day in rehearsal, Ebony Marshall Oliver didn't have a line, but she stood up and made a face. And the subtext of her face, I was like, I feel like that face said, you do, huh? Because Brianna, the sister, is like, I deserve answers. And Beverly did not have a line, but Ebony stood up and made this face. And so because of her face, I gave her that line. and that line stayed in the play and it got a reaction, so I like to be inspired. I think theater is a community needed like way of storytelling. It can't all be my ideas. There has to be a community effort. And so that's I think why I've turned to writing too, is because I think I really just like telling stories. I had some acting and singing ability, so I was like, I need to be an actor. But then I realized, I was like, well, if I can write, I can tell the same stories and not have to audition for them, but I can create them and hire other people and be paid. Oh, this sounds like the way. So that's
there's something generous spirited about your writing, Douglas, that I think ties into what you're saying about your collaborations with Ethan, your collaborative developmental work, your collaborations or inspiration from actors. All of that just speaks to a kind of generosity that I think is really conspicuous in your plays, and one of the things that I like the most about them. Are you going to go back to acting, or are you going to do both at the same time? What do you think?
I'm still acting. I mean, no one's really acting in COVID. Right. I was slated to do a show last summer that got postponed, obviously. And I was acting during Chicken and Biscuits. I was doing the final live show at Westchester Broadway, Five Guys Named Mo. So while Chicken and Biscuits was in rehearsal, I was also in rehearsal and performance, and like coming in for a couple hours and then heading over there. I definitely want to continue acting, but I think right now the writing allows me to work on, there's like 6 different projects that I'm working on right now. And that to me is exciting. Rather than, when you're acting, you have to focus on that one. So.
Five Guys Named Mo, I wish I knew. I love that show. I love the London version. I like the New York version. It's really underrated, and Louis Jordan is great. Did you have a good experience?
I did. It was the second time I did it. So the first time I did it, I was No Mo, and that was in 2005. Wow. Whoa, 16 years ago. And then I played Four Eyed this time.
That's great. I wish I had seen that. Douglas, it really is great talking with you. I'm so excited for your success. I'm so excited selfishly because I get to see more work, more good work from you. You mentioned that you're a big fan of Taryn's. You have no bigger fan. I know you have many, but you have no bigger fan than her. And it's well-deserved, your mutual admiration. You've brought new audiences to our theater. We've always been community-oriented, but Taryn has pushed that to a whole different level, and you're really a part of that. So I'm grateful for your work. I've enjoyed it, and I look forward to our future collaborations. Invisible. I can't wait.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. I'm nervous and excited.
That's a perfect place to be. So thanks so much, Douglas. Thanks for talking with me today. And until next we meet in person or online with the development of Invisible, stay safe and great seeing you.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
You too.
Thanks so much, Douglas. And thanks to all of you still at home, but hopefully not for long, for watching this episode of Playwright to Playwright. We'll be back with a new interview on Tuesday, March 16th. Until then, please keep up with all of Queen's Theater at Home's programming on social media by subscribing to our YouTube channel or on our website, www.queenstheater.org. I'm Rob Urbanati, so until next time, stay safe and be happy.